And we should have everybody coming in.
So Coyle, I'm going to keep my screen shared the whole time. So when I say it's your turn, I'm just going to mute myself and you can unmute and you can talk with the screen up, okay? Cool.
Sorry, I was just emailing Cameron back because I couldn't find the Zoom link, but yes, that sounds good.
And then the other thing is, Coyle, if you can also see the chats and you can answer them, you're welcome to. They might actually ask you questions, Coyle. So while I am answering or I'm presenting, you can also chat answers.
Perfect.
Hi everyone, welcome to the virtual college exploration for New Jersey students, sponsored by NJACAC and StriveScan. Thank you for joining us today. Right now we have about 8 people that are joining us, which is great. Welcome. A few housekeeping things. Students, you can use the housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type any questions to the presenters at any time during the presentation. I think they're going to be answering at the end. Your microphone and your camera are off right now, so the panelists can't see or hear you. And there's lots of other sessions going on, so make sure to check out our full schedule at njacac.org virtual fair. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the time at the website. And right now I'll turn it over to our fabulous presenters from the University of Colorado.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I think I've got to stop your screen sharing if that's all right. And we're going to get started. My name is Lindsay Skirto, and I am a Senior Assistant Director at the University of Colorado Boulder. And I'm very excited to talk to you a little bit today about our institution and what it means to be a student on our campus and to be Boulder. So with that, I have another guest with me today. Her name is Coyle Shropshire, and she is a current CU Boulder student. So Coyle and I are going to take turns really talking to you about our campus and our community. I'm really excited that we are introducing you to this area here today. I am an alumna. I'm also a local Coloradan. I grew up out here and I'm Denver based. So I'm excited to kind of welcome you virtually to our campus and our community. So welcome everybody. With this, we'll introduce you to the university. So this is CU Boulder. We are a college town and a large public university kind of brought together. So this includes more than 30,000 total students. It includes more than 4,000 different classes, 100 different majors, and a really excellent community of learners and a really high quality learning and living environment. So let's dig in to who we are as a campus. First and foremost, we're a place for excellence in learning. This is really a community where you can expect to find world-class faculty teaching you, and that includes our 5 Nobel Prize winners, that includes our MacArthur Genius Grant recipients, and our Pulitzer Prize winning faculty that teach on our campus. It includes some of the best departments in the world, for example, in aerospace and in physics and some of our arts communities, a really high level of learning across the board. We also have a great student body, and that's where a lot of that success and energy really originates. As you can see, we're one of the top colleges for students who want to change the world. We have a lot of innovation centers on campus. We have the Startup Hub, the Idea Forge, and the Nest, just a couple of actual spaces that are maker spaces and industry spaces on campus where students get to really learn and problem solve and innovate. And then on top of that, a really high quality of life in our local community. So we are ranked the #1 college town in the country, and with that comes a really engaged space for students to give back to their community, to access it, and to really enjoy that high quality of life that includes socializing, outdoor recreation, professional prep, and kind of all those other components to being a college student. The picture you're seeing here is actually our downtown Boulder. It's called Pearl Street, and it's a great pedestrian community with over 300 shops and retailers. So we'll talk a little bit more about the town, but that gives you an idea of who we are as a community. So when you study at CU Boulder, we really want you to know about customization as a way to really plan your academics. As I mentioned, we have more than 100 different majors to choose from. We have minors that you can layer on to top of that. We also have concurrent paths where you can get your graduate degree and your master's, your doctorate while studying at CU Boulder. And we have certificates where you could really specialize and layer on other kinds of tracks to your studies. Within all of these kinds of combinations, we really have 7 main programs that you would study in, and that includes our arts and sciences, in which I'm an alumna, our top-ranked engineering and business school, as well as our really tight-knit smaller programs and things like education, media, music, and design. What I'm going to do now is kind of pass it over to Coyle and talk a little bit about herself and her introduction, and then also about her kind of academics and what she's doing as a student at CU Boulder. So I'll go ahead and mute myself and hand it over to Coyle.
Thank you, Lindsay. So formally, hi everyone. My name is Coyle, as Lindsay said. I'm currently in my 3rd year here at CU, and I'm originally from Massachusetts. So I know most of you are from New Jersey, so I do know what it's like to move from the East Coast to Colorado. And I am currently studying neuroscience and psychology, so I'm double majoring. Both of those majors are in the College of Arts and Sciences. However, I'm also minoring in leadership, which is actually in the School of Education. So I do get to bounce around between colleges. And for the first 2 years of my time here, I was on the pre-med track. I am not anymore. I had a great advisor who helped me figure out what I really wanted to do after my undergrad. However, I do know a lot about how you can go pre-med here at CU, so I'd be happy to answer any questions about that later. So yes, as I said, I am in the College of Arts and Sciences, but you can take other classes in all of the other colleges, and as an example for myself, you can also minor in other colleges, and you can also sometimes double major between different colleges. As long as you get it approved by the school, then you're good to go. It's relatively very easy. But yeah, that's all about me. I guess outside of student ambassadors, I'm also a part of Greek life. I've played on the club softball team for a few semesters, and then I am a student ambassador, which is just our fancy term for tour guide, and I am a team lead student ambassador, which means that I'm in charge of just a group of ambassadors to make sure they stay on track. And so, yeah, I've been giving tours for 5 years, and I love it, and I love talking about Boulder, so feel free to ask anything. I think that's it for this.
Awesome, thanks Coyle. So kind of giving you an idea of academics on our campus, this is actually a breakdown of all of the majors that we currently offer on our campus. So just to show you that wealth of opportunity that Coyle was mentioning, as a student, you can be taking classes across the university, across this page, and really getting into different content areas. We do have the program in exploratory studies. So if you are interested in coming in undecided or undeclared, this is something you can choose to enter into, or you might be placed into exploratory studies if you're not directly admitted into your major. And this is a place where your advisor will really help you explore all of those options at the university and really help you figure out which major is best aligned with your strengths, with your interests, with your career plans, so we can get you in that right spot. On top of the academic components, we have our lifestyles on campus. So Coyle mentioned a little bit of how she spends her time as a student. We'll definitely hear more from her. But we really want you to be thinking about not just the academic time, but the lifestyle time too, because that's a really important part of the campus experience. So for our students, for example, your first year, you're going to live on campus. We have 25 different residence halls. They have academic themes, they have living and learning themes. And it's really about creating that tight-knit community, not just around the campus, but around your classrooms, around your social spaces, so that you have that transition your first year, you really get to become a part of campus and become a buff. So we also have opportunities for you to join student organizations and clubs. For example, we have more than 500 student clubs and organizations you can join. We have one of the most powerful student governments in the country with more than a $26 million budget. We have about 25% of our students who would normally choose to travel abroad to another country sometime in their CU Boulder career, among a lot of other ways to get involved. So our really big takeaway is not there's one way to be a buff or there's one way to be a student here. Lots of different identities that our students have and lots of ways that they define themselves. So as you look at this page, it's like for our students to think about like which one defines you, which one are you really interested in? So I'll pass it back over to Coyle to talk about your involvement and kind of how you spend your time as a student.
Yeah, awesome. So after 3 years here, I've had the privilege of experiencing a lot of these different boxes. So I guess I'll start with the traveler. I love traveling. It's definitely one of my hobbies, and you'll find that a lot of CU students share that hobby. A lot of people that go to CU have a huge passion for traveling, and they'll go whenever they can. So I was actually supposed to be abroad this semester. Obviously, that didn't work out, but I was going to go to Copenhagen, and I was going to do a program called DIS. And DIS has programs in multiple cities, but I know their big ones are Copenhagen and Stockholm. And I chose Denmark just because it was a country that I've always wanted to go to. And it also had a major that went with my major at CU. So when you go through DIS, you pick your own major, and it's called your core class. So mine was going to be, oh gosh, it's been like 6 months now, something neurobiology of something. And so that's what I was going to focus on. And then for 1 week out of the semester, they take you abroad from your abroad, and you do like a week-long hands-on experience with your core class. So that was very attractive to me, that I got to go like abroad from my abroad. So unfortunately, I will not be going abroad, but I plan on traveling after I graduate. And most people at CU really want to travel abroad, and we have a program for every single major here, so that is awesome, and I'm very proud of CU for that. Let's see, the naturalist. Okay, so yes, if you are not familiar with Boulder and its naturalist characteristics, people love being outdoors. People go hiking all of the time. There are so many trails. You bike everywhere. On the weekends, all everyone wants to do is be outside. Especially this past semester, I've been hiking a lot. My roommates actually put a map of our local park up on the fridge, and we're trying to complete every single trail before the weather gets too cold. And then hopefully in the spring, we'll be ready to do a 14er, which is a mountain that reaches over 14,000 feet, and Colorado has 52 of them. So that's a big goal for a lot of students here, is to hike a 14er before they graduate. And then the entrepreneur. So I haven't really been able to do anything with this yet because I've just been focusing on my studies, but oh, well, I guess I went to the Be Involved Fair the second week, and that's how I found this club called the American Women's, oh my gosh. Basically, it's just a club where for women, they get people in the medical field to come in and speak to them. So I go to that whenever I can, and it's amazing. Okay, and then the researcher, this is my favorite thing to talk about. So I am a neuroscience major, and so with a lot of my classes, I have to take labs as well. That's true for most of your classes, if they are science classes here, like chemistry, biology, but my neuro classes actually have labs. So the first one that I did was with my molecular and cellular biology class. And in that lab, we were doing something called drug discovery. So the entire semester, we were working on trying to discover a new potential chemotherapy drug. And the way we did that is that we took Drosophila flies, which are tiny little flies, and we put drugs into their food, and we hoped that they died because the flies resemble tumor cells because they're very rapidly growing. So that was super cool. And then the next year, I did a lab with my neuro class, and we were looking at changes in circadian rhythms when we changed the lifestyle of cockroaches. So we actually did the study on cockroaches, which was as terrifying as it sounds. And then we dissected their spinal cord, and we ran PCR, which is just something to look at how genes are being expressed. And so we saw if there was any changes in gene expression. So that was super cool. And those were 2 classes that I had to take as part of my major, but obviously enjoyed them very much. And then volunteer, I do a lot of volunteer work through my sorority, which is a big reason why I joined it. But there are endless amounts of opportunities in Boulder, definitely. I think that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. Thanks for sharing that. So kind of like she mentioned, there's lots of entryways into what you want to get involved in. So to return you to campus and what we spend our time doing, there are really a lot of different ways to fill your day. You might be socializing or taking classes on Fair and Field, which is like the backyard of campus. You might be heading over to the Norland Library, which is our largest of our 5 libraries on campus. You'll find a coffee shop, IT support. You'll find the Writing Resource Center, of course, the actual books and labs to work in, as well as some of the largest collections in the area. You'll also find the Northern Quad, which is another really large outdoor space on campus. It was designed by the same people who designed Central Park, so it's a really beautiful outdoor space. You can head up to Chautauqua, which is probably our most local access to hiking in the Rocky Mountains. So you can actually get to that trailhead within about 15-20 minutes walking from that library, for example. So really, really accessible outdoor recreation. As she mentioned, we have a really pleasant climate. In Boulder, Colorado, we have the 4 seasons, but they're all things considered pretty mild. It is 70-some degrees outside today in October. We'll probably get some snow happening at the end of the month, maybe November, and really light amount of snow typically over a couple of days. So really pleasant outdoors. You can venture even further into the Rocky Mountains if you'd like. If you were to drive about an hour and a half, you'd hit Rocky Mountain National Park. If you were to drive about 3 hours, you'd come within 11 ski resorts by campus. You can also head to downtown Boulder via the Creek Path. It's got hundreds of miles of running trails and biking trails, as well as that downtown community I mentioned, and some local opportunities for interning. So we have Google Boulder, for example, which has been around since 2006. As one indicator of what students are really getting professionally by being a student in the area. And we've got Folsom Field too. So if you're really into college athletics, if you really like that kind of traditional college spirit, you can join our Buffs as they play in the Pac-12 and the NCAA conference. Playing football, of course, you can watch sports as well. You can play them at the club and intramural level. And you can go back home. So it's pretty easy to get in and out of the Front Range. We're about 30 minutes from downtown Denver, and the airport's about a 45-minute drive from our campus. And you can fly directly back to New Jersey. When I normally visit, I fly Southwest Direct every single time. So it's very easy to get in and out of the Front Range area via Denver International and travel to a lot of different places in the country that you'll have access to. You have great access to the West Coast, great access to Chicago, and like I mentioned, only a couple hours from the East Coast as well. And all of our public transit in the area is also free, so you can get around that way as well. So I want to kind of move into more of the application area and talking about what you do when you apply to CU Boulder. You're going to create an account with the Common App, and then you're going to add CU Boulder to your list. Now, once you've added CU Boulder, you're going to have a checklist of items that are required. That's going to include your 2 essays as a first-year student, or the 1 essay if you're a transfer, and a $50 application fee. We do also require your transcripts that document your work. Now this year, we are allowing seniors to submit unofficial transcripts, which means if you have your own copy, you can send it yourself and you don't have to get it sent from the school to get an admissions decision. We do list official as the requirement because when you graduate high school, you will need your school to send us an official record of your work and your transcript. Now this year is also different because we're going test optional. So you can actually apply to CU Boulder without a test score. If you're not sure to send one, we say when in doubt, submit without, but you can choose to send us a test score if you think it's competitive. If you have it and it's going to be on time, then you're welcome to submit that score. We also do still require 1 letter of recommendation that you would need to turn in from your school. So either from a counselor or a teacher, someone who knows you as a student. And then on top of all of that, we still have space for you to talk more about yourself and your accomplishments if you weren't able to get that covered in the rest of these materials here. So when we do review your application, we're going to conduct a holistic review. So the primary factors are going to be academic in nature. Because we are a school, we want to make sure that you're set up for success. But even those factors are really varied. We look at a lot of different things to determine your academic success. It's not just your GPA, or in this case, even a test score. And then we do also consider your non-academic factors, things that are really important to demonstrate your success in college that do not have to do with your ability to do chemistry or calculus or something like that. These include things like working, taking care of your siblings, volunteering, holding a position, being a leader at a school team or athletic sport or something like that. You also have time to talk about extenuating circumstances. So any kind of extra challenge or obstacle that you kind of had to overcome or encounter as a student that may have impacted you. And that's about COVID or completely unrelated to COVID. You have the space to talk about the context of your academics as a student, and we can pay attention to that. Ultimately, we're looking for someone who we think can be successful on our campus. And that does not mean that we're looking for someone with perfect academics or even a perfect past. we're looking for someone who is demonstrating overall those important skills to persist, to be independent, to succeed in our academics. You have two options of applying. The first is to get everything turned in by mid-November. That's a non-binding early action, or you can turn everything in by mid-January. They're really viewed exactly the same, but the benefit is that November students are going to hear back in January or February by the latest, and the January students are going to hear back in March or April by the latest. So I really do think one is better than the other, and that's early action because of your earlier decision notification, but you can choose which deadline to meet. Just make sure that everything is to us by those dates, not sent, but actually received by us. After you've completed your application, you'll want to make sure you're staying updated. For example, check your email pretty regularly. That's how we predominantly communicate with students. We do a little bit of texting, some phone calls, but for the most part, email. And also just know that that's where you'll get your decision notification. So when you've been admitted, you'll get an email that says check your status page. And when you go online, it will say congrats, you've been admitted. That's also where you'll find out if you've been admitted to, say, the honors program or if you've received an automatic merit scholarship. So we want to make sure you're keeping updated with all the information we tell you. After that, you want to make sure that you're understanding cost and funding. So I want to walk you through a little bit of information about cost right now. This is our estimated non-resident cost of attendance. So what you're looking at is the entire cost to be an out-of-state student at CU Boulder. Breaking it down, it's our out-of-state tuition. And it also includes your room and board. Since as a first-year student, you have to live on campus, we include that in our estimate. And then what we think your books and supplies might run for a year. So in order to help students with paying for this, the first thing we do is a tuition guarantee. So whatever your rate is for your first year, it is guaranteed to stay that same rate for the next 4 years. We will not increase your tuition. So there's a 0% increase guarantee for 4 years. For an out-of-state student, when you do the average national increase, it's sometimes $5,000, $7,000 more over the lifetime of a 4-year degree that will not be added to your cost. We also do have aid available in the forms of scholarships, grants, loans, and work study, most of which will come to you via a scholarship application that you complete and or the FAFSA. So it's very important that you do turn in those documents to our students, from our students to the school by the deadlines in order to qualify for as much aid as possible from us. So again, the scholarship is from CU Boulder. That opens up November. That's due in late winter, early spring, as well as the FAFSA, which just opened up last week. With all of the kind of experiences that I mentioned in the classroom and definitely what Coyle's mentioned she's using on our campus, we really do feel confident you can be successful with a CU Boulder degree, and we really monitor and track the success of our students. For example, even during COVID, our employment rates are still very strong for our students. You can see that more than 90% of them are finding full-time employment, and more than almost 3/4 of them, if they're doing some kind of pre-professional program, not only getting into grad school, they're getting into their first choice because of their degree and because of the advising that they've received at CU Boulder. We also know that the average starting career salary for students and the mid-career salary is really strong for our graduates. So and we feel confident that the work that they're getting is really meaningful work, really sustainable work, so that they can not only enjoy what they're doing, but they can sustain their lifestyle. And more importantly, they can use that to have that positive impact on their community, which is one of our key mission statements as a university. We see our buffs literally all over the world, working at some of these companies that are featured here, but we've had more than 12,000 different companies in the history come and recruit at CU Boulder. So literally buffs everywhere. We're even in space. The International Space Station has some alumni that get involved and are occasionally living up there. So it's very exciting to know that you will see, the black and gold buffalo comfortably in any state that you live in, any company that you go to. You'll find your network of buffs likely in that industry. So I want to pass it over to Coyle to talk a little bit about what her career prep has looked like, and if she's done internships or research, and what her kind of plans are in terms of post-graduation.
Okay, so yes, I have not had the privilege of working at any of the companies listed, but I am on Handshake, which is basically like a very friendly LinkedIn aimed towards the college population, and CU kind of gives you an account through that. So when I signed up with Handshake, it went through CU, so it's very listed that I go to CU, and it connects me with a lot of alumni. And one of the job opportunities I got through that was through a company called Trumpet Behavioral Health. So they reached out to me, and I had an interview with them, and they offered for me to be a behavioral analyst with kids who have autism, so I would be going to their houses once a week and running behavioral tests on them to see their progress, work with their cognitive abilities and stuff like that. It was an incredible opportunity, but unfortunately I had to turn it down because I don't have a car here, and it is what it is. But I have been keeping in touch with them, and I hope that when I do, I will reach out to them again. But yeah, Handshake is great. As I said before, I was pre-med, so my original goal was to go to med school and be a physician. And I have a neuroscience major because I wanted to specialize in neurology. I still do, however, I just don't want to get my master's I don't want to get my doctorate for medicine. So I think that I think I would like to get my master's after I graduate in clinical psychology, and I would love to work at a private practice in psychopathology, which is essentially just basically treating people who have mental disorders like PTSD, insomnia, stuff like that. So we'll see where it goes. But I also potentially want to spend a year abroad after I graduate to kind of get back that lost time abroad, and maybe get a certificate abroad in something fun, cooking, health care stuff, something like that. But CU does do a great job providing opportunities. Both my parents graduated from here, and they both were extremely successful post graduation with their bachelors, with incredible opportunities. So I can't say enough good things about that.
Great, thanks for sharing your experience. I will also add that as an alumna, I still get support in terms of career prep from CU Boulder. I'm a part of the alumni network, and so there's opportunities for me to offer to be a mentor to other alumni, and it's also opportunities for me to ask for a mentor as an alumna, and so there's lots of opportunities for me to continue to get that support. Luckily, I'm in my career and I get to work for CU Boulder, so I'm not taking advantage of them as much, but it's a nice opportunity. We're going to move over to questions in just a minute, but I wanted to make sure you knew that we have lots of information for you that stay updated through our social channels. So if you want to follow our handle at FutureBucks on any of these channels, it's one of my favorite places to still get information about campus. Really beautiful pictures of kind of what's going on, what campus looks like. We do a lot of Ask Me Anythings with our current students and a lot of different kind of populations and studies if you want to hear from them, as well as student accounts and takeovers. So for example, we'll give a student like Coyle the account for a day, and they'll talk about what they do from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed and kind of what their whole day looks like. So if you're interested in getting that kind of really live, genuine take on campus life, I recommend following us on any of these channels if you use them. Also know that you are welcome to visit us in more depth through our visit programs. If you go to colorado.edu/visit, you'll find all of our virtual visit options since admissions is operating remotely right now. We have almost 200 different sessions that you can attend. So if you really want to hear about architecture or engineering or journalism, or you really want to talk to more current students, for example, those are all kinds of options you can take advantage of on our visit page with our virtual options. I'd love to see you in those spaces if you want to take a more in-depth tour, see pictures of more facilities, and talk to more students like Coyle. We have an awesome opportunity for you to do that through our visit page. We also want to finish with just a show of support for you all in your college searches and planning. We hope that you can be here in Boulder, the picture of the Flatirons right there. We also hope that you can be at a college that's a good fit for you, you're healthy and you're safe, and more importantly, that you all know that we will be here for you as you make your search process and kind of make your college plans, that even if we're not physically out there visiting, we're here for you on the other side of the screen, and we're going to support you through this process as best we can. If you do have any questions that you don't get answered today or that you want to continue to follow up, you can always send them over to admissions@colorado.edu. It's a great account for you to get your questions answered and make sure you get the support that you need as you make your college plans. And again, that is admissions@colorado.edu. What I want to do now is go ahead and give anybody who's here a chance to chat some more specific questions, and you're welcome to direct them to our current student, Coyle, or to me, the counselor, about CU Boulder. So please let us know what else we can answer for you.
If you want to type them in the chat too, I can just answer them verbally if you're not comfortable speaking. I know it can be awkward. I did have one question earlier, which I think, oh, one more. I'll go back to the other one. Okay, Sophia asked, how safe is campus, which is a great question. Yes, I will definitely address it. This is another one of my favorite stops. I don't enjoy talking about, but favorite stops on campus because I feel like I can provide a good answer. So we used to have the blue light system, and if you've done any tours so far in person, you know that the blue light system is basically just a bunch of poles all around campus that have a blue light, and if you feel unsafe, you should go over and push the button, and it'll send a campus police officer straight to you. So we did have that. However, 99% of the button presses were like false alarms or a boy who cried wolf situations. So they ended up taking them out. And they also thought, well, if you feel unsafe or you feel like you're being followed, why would you push a button and then not go anywhere? So, which does make sense when you think about it. So instead, we had a student create an app called Lifeline, and it basically is just an app where if you're walking home from one place to another, you hold a button down, and if you feel unsafe, you just release it for more than 5 seconds, and the police will come to you. However, you can keep moving because it will track you wherever you're going, which is great. We also have our very own campus police. The CUPD, they're incredible. You see them around campus all the time. You'll see the cars parked all around the edge of campus, so they're making sure that people are getting on and off campus safely. And then they work super closely with Boulder Police Department, so they're constantly in communication, which is great. When it comes down to it, Boulder is a city, so you do want to make sure you're taking the correct precautions. But overall, I have never felt super unsafe in Boulder, or especially not on campus, never on campus. So I hope that answers your question.
I can add a couple layers to that in terms of like
go for
it. Where you live. So with our students, especially if you're living on campus, our community centers, which is like the lobby of the residence halls, are typically open 24/7. Just because, especially in the winter months, if somebody's locked out, we don't want to leave them outside in the Colorado winter. But beyond that community center space, you really can't get further than that unless you belong in that building, and specifically even in that wing. So for example, if there's a set of doors to the right and to the left, if your room is to the right, your key code will only work on the doors to the right. They won't even work on the doors to the left because you don't live over there. So you'll have a key code to get into your wing, oftentimes into like the layer beyond that, and then to your room itself, and then your door has a deadbolt. So in terms of like where you sleep at night, who's going to be in that space where you're living and going to the bathroom and sleeping, it's only the very, very relevant residents in that community that are going to be there. In terms of COVID safety, that's obviously something that's super relevant right now. Our state has a mandate for masks in public spaces, so our students are wearing masks all over campus. We're in a 2-week remote period right now where students are doing their classes completely remote while on campus, since we had a spike in positive tests in the past, I guess like month or so. So that's just a 2-week hiatus, and I actually think we're wrapping up those 2 weeks soon. And so campus is taking, very seriously the safety and health of our students during the pandemic as well.
Okay, another question is how are mandatory activities for freshmen structured? So one great thing about CU is that they actually ask freshmen to come a week early for like an orientation week, which is not something that all universities do. I had a lot of friends that moved in like the weekend before classes started, which can be extremely stressful. And I think especially for people who are from out of state, like you all, that week of adjustment is essential. So during that week, you will go through a bunch of activities with the people that live in the same hall as you, the same hallway with your residential assistant or your RA. And it's basically like summer camp, but it's awesome because it makes you get to know everyone really fast. So you'll do activities with your people in your hall, but then you'll also go to orientation for your major as well. So you'll get to know people who you live with and who you're going to be taking classes with, which is great. So you basically get like a list of everything you have to do that first week. And then some of it's optional, some of it's not. Obviously, I recommend going to as much as you can. And then you have to have meetings with your residential assistant I believe it was once a month, and then I had to meet with my RA one-on-one once a month, just so that they could check in with me and see how everything's going. I'm trying to remember anything else. I mean, there's always activities. I just don't know how many are mandatory. I know we have a lot of trainings that first week too, which is very reassuring. Like, yeah, Lindsay, if you know the names of them more specifically, but
Well, I think the other one is, I think most of the ones you described are like welcome week, but have you talked about the online experience leading up to that?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a really big part too, is basically our orientation is online. So once you become a student, you confirm in May of your senior year, our online orientation launches. So there's a lot of online courses around like the honor code, how to register for classes, major support services we want you to know about, bystander training, things like that. So once you complete those different courses and modules, you can actually like compete and do like quests and like online scavenger hunts for the swag and things like that. And then it also approves you for your registration. So you'll learn how to select your classes, you'll learn how to understand your schedule, and you'll actually go into the shopping cart and make your classes. So that is a mandatory experience that our first years, any new student has to do, that you'll attend online leading up to coming to campus.
Which is so helpful. I did mine over Skype, I think. So I still felt like it was like very personal. Lindsay, do you have the link for virtual visits? Like virtual tours that you can put in? That was the next question. And then I think Lindsay can talk about, the GPA and SAT range.
Yeah, so for accepted students, most of our students, when they are admitted to the university at large, will fall within the GPA range of about a 3.6 to a 4.0 on a 4.0 scale. We do accept weighted GPAs. And then on the SAT range, most admitted students who are admitted to the university will fall between like an 1160 and a 1360. So that's kind of our major range of where students typically fall. Should you be looking into some of our more competitive majors, for example, business, engineering, journalism, they are competitive because they're very popular and we only have so many seats, so we just have to be more selective in who gets admitted. Those ranges are significantly higher. For example, the engineering range is going to be about like a 1370 to 1600 is where most of our students will fall. Same thing with GPA, it's basically a 3.9 to a 4.0 in that range. So those majors do kind of shift the middle 50%. Which is why I mentioned you might be admitted into exploratory studies. Even if you applied to a different major, if you're not competitive, we'll still admit you to the university, into the exploratory program. And then from there, you can actually work your way back into your original major, or you can completely change your mind. If you'd like to see the actual averages that we post, we do keep all of this online. It's public information. If you go to the admissions page and you go to our criteria page, which I can actually put in the answers as well. This is where you'll actually see averages.
Yeah, and they didn't have the exploratory studies program when I was a freshman because it was implemented my sophomore year. But I think it's incredible because it originally was very hard to like be put into one college and then switch in a more competitive one. And this now makes the transition a lot more natural. And easier because the program is specifically for people that do want to work into getting into the college that they want, which I think is great.
There was also a question about residence hall selection. So I'll talk a little bit about it, and then I think Coyle would be great to hear about like where you lived and what that building experience was like. When you apply for housing, you can be grouped a couple of different ways. There is grouping based off of your academics. So those are called RAPs, residential academic programs. So for example, you can choose to live in the business RAP, the honors RAP, the communication RAP, the history RAP. You actually take classes in that field area in your building. So most often there is some overlap with your major and the RAP. Not always, but most often, like an engineer is gonna live in an engineering community, for example. But we do have some students who are music majors living in the history building or living in the science building. So you can do that too. So that's one way that you can choose to live in a building. Some of them don't have a theme at all. So some of them it's just kind of like open major, open housing in that way. all of our residence halls are co-ed, and that we have self-identified men and women living in all of our buildings. We do also have a gender neutral community in Williams Village where all of the bathrooms are gender neutral. We're very, very flexible in terms of student identity and their housing. If you're finding that you can't find the right kind of placement or label on the housing application, you can talk to a staff member directly and privately. And so there's lots of opportunities for you to kind of find housing and that kind of fit too. But other than that, typically the rooming situation, most of our students have one roommate in a community bathroom, and that's going to be by students who identify as the same gender. So you're going to find like 2 men living together, 2 women living together. That's the most common housing situation that we have. We do have singles and doubles and triples and quads. So those are the number of people that live in a room based off of the number I just said. And sometimes they come with a suite, which means the bathroom is built into the room. Sometimes it's a community bathroom, which means it's down the hallway. And again, it's divided by gender. So there's a couple of different ways that you can choose your housing based off of that.
Yeah, we really have everything on campus. Like, as Lindsay said, we have triples, we have doubles, we have everything, shared baths, not shared baths. However, the most common is the double with a community bath, which is what I lived in. I lived on an all-girls hallway, so my side of the building was girls and the other side was boys. However, I had friends that lived in a completely co-ed hall, so it's honestly, there's no pattern to it. It's really just what you get. Both experiences are great. And then my hallway actually had a gender neutral bathroom, which was so awesome. And I think they're trying to make it so that every single one does now, which is something I'm very proud to say. And then I was in a RAP. Once again, that's a residential academic program. So I was in the environmental science RAP. And so I took my hardest class, prerequisite for my major, or not prerequisite, hardest class required by my major in my academic building, or residence hall, instead of being in a 200-person lecture like most people were for this class. I was in a 15-person class, and I didn't even have to go outside to get there. I literally just walked down the hallway. And then on top of that, it was the only class that my professor taught. So she was only teaching the 15 of us that whole semester. And then the other time she was working in a research lab. So she also came to our building for office hours, which are basically just extra time that you can have one-on-one with your professor. So every single week I would walk down the hallway, go to her office hours and do my homework with her one-on-one. So I cannot speak highly enough about the RAP programs. I would definitely research it, because if I'm being honest, mine was random. I didn't know that I was being put in one until I was thrown in there, and it happened like by some good grace that like it coincided with my major. So definitely do the research. They completely changed my academic experience freshman year. It made the transition to college academics so much better. Yeah, I think we answered. Hopefully.
There was a final question about applying exploratory studies and it impacting your admissions. It will not negatively impact you at all. Exploratory studies is a great option. It is our most popular major that students pick on the application. So exploratory studies is a great way to go into CU Boulder for you to explore our majors, for you to get an advisor that helps you. Exploratory studies has classes called first year transition too. So they have classes that are just about college in general, about preparing for college and learning how to do like a syllabus prep and studying for exams. So it's a fantastic program, and we definitely would want people to go into it if they're interested. So it's not going to hurt you at all if you don't know your major. It's got more space than some of the other programs, like I mentioned. So it's not as competitive as say getting into engineering. And it's a great program. So if you're interested, you should definitely apply for it. We are about to wrap up. We have about 2 more minutes and then the session will end. So I'd love to answer any more questions. Just want to give you a heads up. We probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So please keep chatting them if you've got them.
While we're waiting for any last minute ones, I can talk about the first question I had about what it's like being from out of state, especially East Coast to the West, we call it. It's not the Midwest, it's just the West. My transition was phenomenal. I love it here. I've always wanted to go here, so I had a great transition. However, I know it's not the case for everyone. It is hard to move very far away. However, I'm a huge advocate of trying something new for college, and you have 4 years to go live somewhere else, so why not? However, it's just reassuring to know that you can always go home. That's what my parents railed in my head. They were like, no matter what, you can always hop on a plane and go home. And Lindsay mentioned how close the airport is. We have buses that run every 30 minutes to the airport, and they're free. So that's what I take, and it's so easy. So you're not stuck out here. You can always go home if you need to.
Hi guys, so thank you for joining us, and thank you to the students that are out there that joined us today. When you close this window, there will be a link for a quick 4-question survey, and we'd really appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Also, this is just one of many of the sessions that we're offering this week, so be sure to sign up for any additional sessions at njacac.org/virtual-fair. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as a bunch of other session recordings at, again, njacac.org/virtual-fair. Thank you so much for joining us today. Both of our great reps from Colorado, and have a great rest of your college fair.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Bye. Good luck with everything.